Okay, so now we're going to look at the bottom of page 5, and what we're going to learn is how to go from point slope form to slope intercept form. Okay, you know that it's very easy given a point and a slope, or actually given 2 points, to get into point slope form. That's very easy. So what we're going to learn is if you're given a point and a slope, or if you're given 2 points, you always go into point slope form. But then we don't just stay in point slope form. We're going to either change it into slope intercept, or we're going to change it into standard form. First, we're going to learn how to change it into slope intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. So let's look at this equation and let's look at this equation. Notice in this equation, we have parentheses. We don't have any parentheses here. So we know the first thing we need to do is get rid of the parentheses. Okay, so step 1 is to distribute, to get rid of the parentheses. So we do 3 times x, 3 times 4. So now we have y minus 5 equals 3x plus 12. So now let's look at this, and what's the difference? The difference is we have a negative 5 here, and here y is isolated. So how do we get rid of the negative 5? We add 5 to both sides. So I have y equals 3x plus 17. Okay, so now I've gone from point slope form to standard form. And what did I do? First, I got rid of the parentheses, and then I isolated y. Okay, let's try another one. Let's look at b. So here, first I distribute to get rid of the parentheses. So I say y plus 1 equals 1/5 x. Now negative 10 times a fifth becomes negative 10 fifths, which is minus 2. Okay, now if you had problems doing that, you could write over here 1/5 times negative 10 over 1. You notice that becomes negative 10 over 5, which is negative 2. So you can either do it in your head or you can write it out. Now, why does this not look like slope intercept form? It's because we have a plus 1 here. So how do we get rid of the plus 1 and isolate the y? We subtract 1. So then we get y equals 1/5 x. Negative 2 minus 1 is minus 3. So my answer is y equals 1/5 x minus 3. Okay, so now let's turn to page 6. And they ask us, okay, they say here, you have a point, you have a slope, and they want you to put this into, let's see if we can clear that up. They want you to put this into slope intercept form. But if I'm given a point and a slope, do I go directly into slope intercept, or should I go into point slope form? Obviously, given a point and a slope, you go into point slope form. So I label this x sub 1, y sub 1. And then I say y minus y sub 1 equals m times, is that a negative for you? X minus negative 1 is x plus 1. So I have put it into point slope form because I was given a point and a slope. But the directions want this in slope intercept form. So the first thing I do when I'm putting it into slope intercept form is I get rid of the parentheses because there's no parentheses in slope intercept form. And then I have to isolate the y. So now I'm going to add 3, and I get y equals negative 4x minus 1. Okay, so now let's look at the next one. B, they give us a point, they give us a slope. So what form do we go into? We go into point slope form. Then we change it to slope intercept. So I want everyone to stop the video, try this on your own. Start the video when you're done. Okay, so now I have point, slope, a point and a slope. I'm going to go into point slope form. So I label my point. I say y minus 3 equals 2 times x minus 6. Again, you should feel very comfortable doing this now. If you don't, you need to go back and practice it, because you really have to know, given a point and a slope, you have to be able to get into point slope form. Now, to get into slope intercept form, I don't have any parentheses. There's no parentheses in slope intercept form. So my first step is to distribute. My second step is to isolate y. So I get y equals 2x minus 9. Okay? Now, on the next one, what they give us 2 points. Now, what do you do when you're given 2 points? Whenever you're given 2 points, you always find the slope. 2 points, find the slope. 2 points, find the slope. It should be just an automatic reaction. So I'm going to do label x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. I do y sub 2 minus y sub 1. So negative 1 minus 5 over 2 minus negative 2. Now notice, 2 minus negative 2 becomes 2 plus 2. So this becomes negative 6 over 4. And I always simplify my slope, so this is negative 3/2. So now m equals negative 3/2. Now I have 2 points and a slope. Well, to go into point slope form, I only want 1 point and a slope. So I just cross this one out. Okay, now I say y minus 5 equals negative 3/2 times x minus negative 2. Okay, so everybody see what I did here? I have my slope, I have my point, I just went into point slope form. Okay, now I go from point slope form to slope intercept form. So, what do I have to do first to get this out of point slope and into slope intercept? Well, the first thing I have to do is distribute, because there are no parentheses in slope intercept form. So negative 3/2 x, and this becomes minus 3. Now I can do that in my head, and if you can do it in your head, great. But for those of you who can't, let me show you what I did. I did negative 3/2 times 2. The 2's cancel out, and I'm just left with negative 3. Okay, so now what's preventing this from being in slope intercept form? Well, it's the negative 5 with the y. So I add 5, and I'm left with y equals negative 3/2 x plus 2. Okay, so again, you were given 2 points. What did you do? 2 points, you find the slope. So now I have 2 points and a slope. Cross one out, I have a point and a slope. I go into point slope form, and then I can change it into whatever I want. In this case, I change it into slope intercept form. Okay, now let's look at the next one. Now the next one, what are they giving us in the next one? They say f of 4 equals 9, and f of negative 4 equals negative 7. Well, this is kind of weird. But if you remember, when we did function notation, we said, what's the value of the function when x is 4? And the answer was 9. So when we ended up with something like this, they were really giving us a point. The x value is 4 when the y value is 9. And here, the x value is negative 4 when the y value is negative 7. So they just gave us a fancy way of giving us 2 points using function notation. So if you see it written like that, you just rewrite it in the form you're used to as 2 points. So now they gave us 2 points. Okay, given 2 points, what do? Given 2 points, you always find the slope. X sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. I do y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Now be careful here. Some of you say negative 4 minus 4 is 0. No, negative 4 minus 4 is negative 8. So this is negative 16 over negative 8, which simplifies to a positive 2. So m equals 2. I have 2 points and a slope. I only want 1 point and a slope, so I'm going to cross out that point. Then I'm going to say y minus 9 equals 2 times x minus 4. In slope-intercept form, which is what they want, there are no parentheses, so I'm going to distribute. Now, I want my y isolated, so I'm going to add 9 to both sides, and I get y equals 2x plus 1, and I'm done. Okay, so now what you're all going to do, at the bottom of page 6, there's an A, B, and a C. And in all cases, they give you 2 points. And they ask you to write the equation in slope-intercept form. So, given 2 points, you automatically find the slope. When you have 2 points and a slope, you cross 1 point out. Then you have point and a slope. And when you have a point and a slope, you go into point-slope form. So, you're in point-slope form. They want it in slope-intercept form. Then you distribute and you isolate the y. So I want everyone to try A, B, and C on your own, and there'll be a new video showing you those answers. Try to do it on your own, then watch the video.